When 20 acres is spread out into an open area, it's actually a lot smaller than you think. I personally live on 6 acres and that property seems huge. But then again, I have trees and mountains and all kinds of partitioning fences that break it up into large chunks, which seem huge to walk across. I have 2 acres that I can't even see from my house and rarely step foot on. But 20 acres wide open doesn't seem big because I could see the edges of the property and drive across it in less than a minute. With that said, it's still a lot of land. This plot of land was the first vacant land lot I bought. I was 30 years old and worked as a design engineer. At the time, my ex-wife and I owned our home on a half acre. I was desperate to farm and expand. Half acre was not enough for all the bunkers, orchards, and water storage units I wanted to build. I had big plans and I needed more land. Well, I wanted more land. Here in Southern California, land is not cheap. It's all taken up by developers, investors, and baby boomers holding on to big chunks, which seem impossible to buy due to the unavailability or ridiculously high prices. Supply is low, but demand is high. For months, I browsed Zillow looking for impossible criteria. I knew I wanted a lot of land for cheap, so I set the price extremely low and minimum lot size really high. I tried many combinations of price and size to get an idea of what things were listed for. I ultimately figured out what a good deal was by comparing the tons of properties within 100 miles. Well, I figured out that $1,000 an acre was a decently good deal for rural land in Southern California. I'm not talking Newport Beach or Hollywood, but rural desert Southern California. So I had to look eastwards towards the Salton Sea in an area called Acre Wells, where the summer temperatures reach well into the hundreds and many times above 110. The wind is terrible all spring, and there's not a house for miles. But I did know that this area is one of the busiest places to travel in the wintertime. This is a massive off-road recreational area with more than enough trails to get around. Well, patience is the key. After many months of impossible criteria, one day a new listing popped up. This property was 20 acres and listed for $9,000. It was the best ratio of price, size, and distance for my house. It met all my criteria, and it wasn't completely barren. It had features like hills and rocks and sand. It was right off the main highway and at the edge of an official state off-road recreational area, complete with bathrooms. I loved it and had to have it. Now, to be honest, I didn't bother to think how I was going to pay for it. I hadn't saved a penny. My ex-wife took my money every paycheck, and all I had was enough to buy chicken feed. I was flat broke. Well, almost. I don't recommend this to anyone, but I had a 401 retirement savings account from working the past 10 years as an engineer. To me, 401k was an ethereal account that didn't exist. I couldn't imagine waiting until 70 years old to finally touch my hard-earned money. I figured it was a terrible investment and told myself that land is a much better investment and way more useful. So I did the terrible thing of pulling out my money early. Out of the $15,000 I had in my account, I only received $9,000 after taxes and all the penalties. I will never do 401k again. I'm not an expert. To me, it's a lazy, yuppie's way of investing and retiring. Anyways, I went out to visit the property before I'd made the decision, and I fell in love with it. I was so in love, I started panicking that someone would buy it before I had the chance. So as soon as I got back, I contacted the seller, who happened to be the owner. I basically said, I have $9,000, how do I get the property? He was more than happy to sell it full price. Within a week or two, I filled out all the forms and wired all the funds. And before I knew it, the property was being recorded at the county, and it was mine. It was a great experience, and I learned a lot. Looking back now, I wouldn't have used my 401k. It would have been way more cost effective to have gotten a loan, or even better, saved some money. I've been reading that refinance my primary property would have been the best and easiest option, but I'm not an expert on that subject. Another thing I would have done differently is to look at auction sites or find county tax sales. This is something I've been doing more recently, and the deals are truly amazing if you do your due diligence on back taxes and compare prices. Since purchasing the property, I've been out there more than a handful of times. It's a 2.5-hour drive one way, so it's usually a weekend overnight trip. I tried to build an earth and sandbag dome home, but due to the weather and timing, the sandbags fell apart in the sun before I could weatherproof them. After that failure, I changed my strategy and began building the gazebo using wood I acquired from Lowe's. So here stands a gazebo in the middle of nowhere. This 20-acre property with a gazebo is now my private getaway and shooting range. I make income on this property using vacation rentals so others can enjoy it as well. I hope you guys enjoyed my video. Please like and subscribe. Hope you learned something. Thanks. Bye-bye.